Hello, and thank you for joining another edition of Quick Byte with Ruben. As you can probably guess, my name is Ruben with A1 Bizcom, and today we're going to be talking about SD-WAN and firewalls. Before we get into that, I just wanted to share a couple of statistics that are pretty alarming. 80% of websites that are out there today hosting malware were once legitimate websites that were hacked. And on top of that, 1 in 13 web requests are linked to malware on websites. And every day, there are over 350,000 new malware applications being identified. With all this information out there and daily of us hearing about breaches, about ransomware, about viruses, Trojan, and all these attacks on businesses, I felt that it was important for us to talk about it. And so there are two basic tenets of firewalls and SD-WAN. They're on-premise and they're cloud-based. So first, let's talk a little bit about on-premise. On-premise firewalls are similar to what I'm holding right here in my hand. They're what you would have had or have currently in your office, whether it's Cisco, Ubiquiti, MikroTik, Sophos, SonicWall. There's a whole list of products out there on the market. One thing that you have to understand about these on-premise firewalls is that they will protect you from these applications and this malware and antivirus according to the virus definitions that they have loaded in them today. In most of the situations when you purchase a new firewall and you have it installed, there's no ongoing licenses or subscriptions to update these daily attacks and virus definitions that are coming out. So you're only as protected from the viruses as the day that the device was installed. The very next day, when there's 350,000 new malware applications, you're no longer protected. On top of that, only 5% of known viruses are inside of an on-premise firewall. So there's 95% of known viruses that are making its way right past your firewall right now. And they can only block file sizes 10 megabits and lower. So all a hacker needs to know is they need to attack you with a file that's 10.5 megs, and it's going to make its way right past your firewall. Other types of attacks other than viruses and malware, only 25% of those attacks are stopped by an on-premise firewall. So again, there's a huge gap in protection for that on-premise firewall. And they have no denial of service protection whatsoever. And they also have no sandboxing. And sandboxing, what you know of that is that if you have multiple locations and one of the locations gets infected, the ability for the firewall to isolate that location so that it doesn't spread it out to multiple places, that's not a feature of on-premise firewalls. So a cloud-based firewall does things very differently. And today we're specifically going to be talking about the OmniNet SD-WAN appliance and firewall. That's our preferred appliance for here in our office. Now, before we talk too much about that, I wanted to show you, coming into our office, we have several internet connections. We have a fiber internet connection coming in. We have a best effort cable connection coming in. And then we also have a 4G connection. All three of those connections are feeding into the OmniNet appliance. And there's one cable feeding out into our local area network. So if we turn this appliance around, you can see there's the three cables. There's the fiber, there's the cable, there's the 4G, and then there's our local cable that goes into our internal network. So on an SD-WAN, without getting too technical, what SD-WAN does is it gives you the ability to put multiple internet connections into one box and allow those internet connections to work simultaneously. Again, if we take one of these traditional firewalls, they'll have multiple internet inputs. However, the ability to use those at the same time versus primary and failover, they don't have that ability. An SD-WAN appliance is going to give you that ability. And I'm going to demonstrate to you how that can be a benefit. So using those internet connections at the same time gives you the ability to be able to make a phone call. So you see I make a phone call right now and we're listening to time and temperature. And if one of those internet connections start to have issues, like go out, my call doesn't drop. I can come over to my second, unplug it, call's still going. I can unplug both of my internet connections and go just over my 4G, and you see the phone call never drops. So this is a very important distinction for SD-WAN. It gives you the ability to have multiple internet connections coming into your appliance and to be able to maintain the uptime that more and more companies are needing. With all of your applications being offloaded to the cloud, whether that's your phone system, your practice management, your ERP software, your email, web traffic, anything that you need to access on a daily basis, the internet access is extremely important. Having an SD-WAN appliance where you can bring in multiple internet connections, even low-cost internet connections, and be able to have the uptime that you need. Traditionally, that was only accomplished by having an expensive fiber connection. You're now able to do that in different ways. So SD-WAN is something that's native to the OmniNet platform. The biggest advantage to the OmniNet, however, is the firewall. Okay, so I want to talk, we shared some numbers earlier in the conversation about what's coming out in the market as far as from the hackers. So OmniNet, all of their equipment, all of the data that goes through here goes through a data center that OmniNet manages. And in that data center, every week, there's 2 million new antivirus and anti-malware definitions being added to this appliance. Every week, there's 1.3 million new URL ratings. So like we talked about earlier, websites that may contain malware or have malware, those are being uploaded to this device in real time. There's 100 new intrusion prevention rules every week being added here. And all of that, all of those definitions, all of those pieces of information are based on 8,000 weekly hours of global research that goes into protecting your internal network. And so this is a very powerful appliance because all of your internet traffic isn't going to this appliance and then straight to the internet like a traditional firewall would. If it was a situation like that, the only protection that you have is based solely on this piece of equipment that's sitting on your network. However, since all of the traffic through this OmniNet goes to OmniNet scrubbing centers, you're able to have up-to-date, up-to-the-minute, hour, day, week, month protection on your internal network. So whether you're looking for HIPAA compliance, PCI compliance, or general protection for your location against antivirus, anti-malware, content filtering, certain websites that you don't want your employees to access, all of that is inside of this box. Next, I'm going to show you the portal just at a high level so that you can see some of the things and how easy it is to accomplish them on this OmniNet appliance. So I'm going to show you the portal very quickly. So on the first page, you can see the overview of your piece of equipment. You can see how many internet connections you have a license for. You can also set up email alerts in case your internet goes down to send to a particular person. And you can send periodic reports to particular email addresses. And I'll show you one of those reports shortly. You're able to look at all the different devices that are currently connected to your location. You're able to come into the profile and you're able to define what kind of office you have. So for some of our customers, there may be certain profiles that are better suited than another for their office. Inside of zones is where you're able to come in here and make many of the different changes that you need to do on the appliance. So as an administrator level, you're able to come in here and you're able to override some of the restrictions you have on websites. You're able to change the content filtering, whether strict, moderate, or lenient. And you're able to open up the different categories to decide whether you want those categories allowed inside of your network. So you can see some of these categories right here. If there's one user on your network that you want to give a username and password to override any of the restrictions that you have, you can do that in here as well. Inside here, you're looking at the different clients and you can lock these clients to have that internal IP address if that's something that you want to do. Remote access, this is where you'll set up port forwarding, or if you want to set up SSL VPN users to be able to access your network from the outside, you can do that in here. Over on the OmniWAN, you're able to look at the health of your internet connections. You can see right here on my port 3, which is my 4G, it's not as healthy as it should be compared to, say, the fiber and the coax. You're able to come in here and decide if there's a call that you need to make to the supplier in order to troubleshoot those internet connections. And optimizing is a very important difference for OmniNet over some of the others that are out in the market. When you first install OmniNet and you optimize your network, what you're doing is it will run your internet connection for different bandwidth settings. So it'll run your internet at 10 megabits, 20 megabits, 30 megabits, 50, all the way up to the maximum speed for download and upload to find out where the internet starts to degrade. If the internet starts to degrade at a certain point or bandwidth limit, then it'll make sure and keep you inside of that bandwidth limit to ensure that you have extremely good internet going all the way to your users. An example report right here is from OmniNet, and inside of this report, you're able to, as an administrator, come in and see many different parts of your network. And again, you can set these to come to you weekly or monthly. So I can see high-level statistics like what my bandwidth is per month, how many sessions I have per month, or I can go down on a per IP level to see who's using the most bandwidth. I can come down here and see what the top browsing time is for the particular IP addresses, what websites that they're spending most of their time on, what particular website. So up here is basically a category of a website versus down here is the particular websites that they're looking at. And I'm able to identify how many threats were stopped from people clicking a bad website, clicking a phishing email. Coming in here, I'll be able to see how many times my OmniNet firewall protected me. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and learn a little more about SD-WAN appliances and firewalls. I hope that you'll engage us. There's much more that we can talk about. I wanted to keep this video short so that you can get the information that you really need, and we can talk a little more about what may be a good fit for your business. See you next time.